Hey guys, Ashleigh Yates here, Realtor in Castle Rock, and I am here with my friend Jimmy and mortgage lender. This is Jimmy Kinley with Cherry Creek Mortgage, a division of Guild Mortgage, and we're hopping on just for a quick chat to discuss some of the questions that we have been getting in the marketplace right now. So, hi Jimmy,
Glad to be here.
how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you?
Wonderful. So I just wanted to hop on real quick. I know that I personally reach out to you all the time, asking you questions, and some of the questions that I'm going to bring to you today are those that I'm getting from clients, from buyers and sellers, and I think that everyone in the marketplace probably are thinking too. So, um, talking about 2025. What are you seeing now compared to what we saw maybe during the pandemic, or historically? Like, what is the new normal right now?
So I assume you're referring to rates when you
Yes,
ask that question.
yes.
Um, we've been in a higher rate environment for the last 3 years, and when I say a higher rate environment, I want to quantify that because a higher rate environment is relative to where we just came from, and we just came from the lowest rate environment we'd ever seen in history. So uh, the the reality is that the average for a 30-year fixed mortgage, if you go and look at Freddie Mac's website, which they're the only ones that have literally recorded locked loans for the last 50 plus years, um, is 7.78% over the last 51 years. So although we call it a high rate environment, we're still below average, probably almost a percentage point below that right now. Um, Outlooks for this year are very similar to last year. The only difference is we didn't see that last year because pretty much because of the election.
Okay.
Just so much instability in the markets and markets being uncomfortable with what's going on created the inability for rates to really come down. We are starting to see some settling in those markets post election. Doesn't really have anything to do with who got elected or who didn't get elected. It's more about just stability of not knowing. Fear is
Yeah.
always scary in markets, so it creates instability, and instability won't let mortgage rates come down. So we are projected to see rates come down this year. Anywhere from a 0.5% to a full percent is kind of what the different projection models are seeing. Whether that happens fast, slow is going to be relative to what's going on in the markets and what the new people in office are doing and things of that nature. It's going to kind of slow that down or speed that up.
And I don't know about you, but I have a handful of buyers that I'm working with, and even my sellers, they're like, I don't know if we want to buy. We want to wait till the rates drop. What if they don't drop? And I think that that's one of those things that us as an industry, everyone's been like, the rates are going to drop, they're going to drop, but what if they don't? And so another question I've been getting that I've gotten from some of my buyers are if I'm on the fence, and I want to buy, and I can afford to buy now, but I really think that rates are going to drop. Like, what is your opinion in that scenario? What are you telling your clients that you are approving?
Telling the clients the same thing for the last few years. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've seen rates cruise up, go down, cruise up, go down. I've seen this trend 4 or 5 times over the last 25 years. And what I can tell you is buying in a down market is always a good time to buy. So let's just imagine this is the new norm. And we're a full percentage point below the average, so it's not crazy to think we could
Yeah.
sit right here. And if that truly is the new norm, you locking in a 30-year fixed mortgage um, and creating wealth from owning a home is still achieving the same goals. And that's not taking into account the fact that rates could drop and you could refinance. If you take a typical $500,000 home, and let's say a buyer says that, yeah, it cost me $1,000 more to buy a $500,000 house than to rent that $500,000 house. and you break it down to simple numbers, and you look at the cost to rent compared to the cost to own is roughly $1,000 a month difference.
Hmm.
And if you have the ability to afford that, and you're looking at it as an expense, you shouldn't be looking at it that way. You should be looking at it as an investment. Because if we take the last 3 years, which some have deemed a difficult market because of higher rates or whatever, that $1,000 a month, we've seen 5% appreciation through a high rate environment. And, you know, this is the market everybody says, oh, we shouldn't be buying. But yet we've seen 5% appreciation. So that $500,000 home is appreciating 25 grand a year, and you're putting $1,000 a month more out of your pocket into that. It's a no-brainer. Your $1,000 investment is still doubling coming back. And that's not taking into account the fact that mortgage rates, if they come down and you get to refinance, you're going to get a much that really changes that dynamic of how much that all works out. It's not taking into account tax write-offs. It's not taking into account the fact that appreciation is compounding, and it's not taking into account the fact that rent goes up 3% a year, and all your money is going to pay somebody else's mortgage. So these are the things that I talk to clients about, and most importantly, the one thing I want to say is we're sitting on the largest pool of buyers we've ever seen, first time home buyers that want to, I'm sorry, that haven't purchased a home yet. And when you take all that data I just said and assume just 5% appreciation, but let's flip the script and let's imagine that inventory levels are still fairly low, and all these buyers decide to start buying at once again. That 5% appreciation number that we're using is a fantasy. If all these buyers get off the fence at once, we could see 10% appreciation. We could see 15% appreciation on that lower end, because competition creates appreciation.
Yep.
And at some point, they're all coming. So my advice has been the same since rates went up. Make sure you buy before the rates go down. Don't wait until they're already going down. Once
Right.
you get to that point, it's too late. You already missed your window, and the competition is wide open. And then you're going to have to fight with everybody else and pay above list price to get that same house.
And that's what happened to me. I mean, we bought our first house in, gosh, 2011, and then 10 years later when we ended up in Colorado, bought in 2021. And even as a real estate agent, it's like I was competing against people paying 100 grand over asking. And thankfully I found a new build and put my deposit down because I didn't want to deal with that because there was so much competition. So
Yeah,
firsthand have
competition.
experienced that.
Competition is very difficult for every piece of the puzzle. It's not just that you're paying more for the house. As you can't negotiate inspections, you can't do all this stuff, you can't get contingencies. So the short answer to your question is waiting for rates to go down sounds like the worst time.
I would agree.
you know if you're going to wait for rates to go down and watch appreciation shoot up and then let the market settle down and then buy a year later when the houses are much more expensive, sure, maybe that's not so crazy. But if you're going to try to time it, rock bottom's always in your rearview mirror. It's you can't time the market. You've seen it just like I've seen it even over the past 3 years, where we have those cold spots and then we have that hot spot,
Yep.
and it doesn't, like, you don't get a warning signal. Like, it doesn't say, hey, coming in the next month the market's going to get hot. It's like one weekend all the houses disappear,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden there's tons of competition, and that runs for months and then chills back out. um, Once the rates start to trickle back down consistently, that chill back out part will probably go away, with the exception of Christmas or those normal cold spots of the year.
Yeah. But even then, that's a great time to buy because there's not a ton of competition, right? I
my,
mean,
my mother
buyers
was
are
a
still
realtor for
buying.
40 years, and that was one of her big things. Was she was one of the top realtors she was the number one realtor in the state of Tennessee and one of the top realtors in the country. And she always bought houses with the holidays because she
Yeah.
said, if you're selling your house at the holidays, you're motivated, I can get a deal.
Very smart.
So again, to the point of when others aren't buying is when you should be buying. And that's, you can look at the data forever. You can go all the way into the investment world. You know, Warren Buffett his, when he says to invest, you don't invest when there's greed, you invest when there's fear, because that's when you get a deal.
I love
When
it.
everybody else isn't.
Amazing advice. A question from one of my sellers. They said they were asking me, which I can just tell you what I've been seeing, and I'm sure on the lending side you're seeing the same. But I'm seeing a lot more activity happen. I had an open house, tons of traffic. I've been seeing a ton more showings. Are you getting more applications coming in right now?
I am. It actually started once the election was over. I think people were just happy that it was behind us.
Yeah.
And I saw a lot of new applications start to come in immediately in the next couple of weeks after that. Um, a lot of those buyers jumped on houses quick, but I would say half of them have been just kind of waiting. And all the people I've been pre approving since then, it's not that normal pre approval where they're ready to go find a house this weekend. They're getting pre approved for February or March. And they're teeing it up, they're getting ready, they're being methodical. And even though I'm telling them, don't wait until everybody else is out there,
Yeah.
but they are, and we can only give people the information. If they have a game plan that they're going to wait till March, that's what they're going to do. So I do believe that and that's why, I've talked to a fair amount of different people, and they mentioned that they're getting showings, but not necessarily getting a ton of offers. And I think
Yeah.
that kind of consists with what you're seeing is because people are getting ready, but they're not ready to pull the trigger yet.
I'm definitely
But
seeing that.
it's funny because it'll happen one weekend. The houses they're looking at, they'll have it narrowed down to two or three, and they'll all disappear, and then
Mhm.
everybody gets frantic and starts
Yeah.
trying to write offers real quick. So that's
It's
that's why we always
common.
joke that the switch just turns on one day.
Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to doing this more regularly. We're going to be covering VA loans, FHA loans, first-time home buyers. If any of you have any questions specifically for Jimmy about a topic that I haven't mentioned, please let us know. And Jimmy, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
All
Have a
right,
great
we'll
day.
talk again soon.
Alrighty, bye bye.